Hey guys, so in this reading we're going to be exploring what your psychic, spiritual, and or metaphysical gifts, talents, latent abilities might be. We have 7 options for this reading, which you can see here. Number 1 is Midnight Fleur. These are all just little perfume bottles. Number 2 is Verde. Number 3 is Citrine. 4 is Indigo. 5 is Black Tulip. 6 is White Sandalwood. And 7 is Dahlia and Vines. So take your time to see which reading seems to call out to you the most. I wanted to have quite a few options on this one because I wanted this reading to be as specific to you as possible. Also, if you want to hang around for that in a few moments, we're going to move into a video where I talk about what it is like from my perspective to be psychic, and I'm also going to tell a little bit of my story about how my psychic abilities have developed through the years. So I'm going to give it about 5 more seconds here for you all to make up your minds. You can go ahead and look at the timestamps in the description and the top of the comments, and then the video is going to move into the portion of the video where you're going to see me and my actual face. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry, but yeah, you'll see me talking about my own experience as a psychic. All right, and so that psychic talk is of course skippable. You don't have to watch that. You can just go to the timestamp of your reading if you like. But if you're interested in that portion, it will be timestamped as well to help you find it. But it's actually just going to come up right now. Here we go. So, what is it like to be psychic? So, for one thing, I would not have even considered myself psychic or called myself that until a few months ago, even though I have been doing tarot readings professionally since 2009. I started my website for my tarot and astrology business on January 1st of 2009, so it's been 10 years. And I started reading tarot and exploring astrology in 2006. So that's where I'm coming from, and I think over the years I would have maybe definitely considered myself an empath, and also just a very intuitive person, someone who's very in touch with their intuition. And tarot and astrology are, you know, a couple of means of tapping into intuition, because I feel like we always have guidance available to us, and those just happen to be 2 tools that a person can utilize. I also have felt very connected to spirit animals. I've experienced spirit animals coming to me as omens, signs in a way. There have been some moments through the years when I've experienced the presence of spirits, you know, people who have passed on, people who are departed. So I've had those moments, and there have been moments of clairvoyance. I've also, you know, undertaken measures to increase my intuition, to work on it and increase it. But it was not until July of 2018, which is, I guess, about 6 months ago now. There were two eclipses in that month, and so in that 2-week period before the first eclipse and the second eclipse, I experienced the most tremendous surge in my psychic ability, to the point that now I do consider myself psychic. And I feel like people misunderstand that term, for one thing, which is part of the reason why I would not have called myself that in the past. You know, people hear you say that you're psychic and they think this person is omniscient. Nobody's omniscient except for God. We are all part of God. You know, we collectively are an expression of God. But there is not a human being who is omniscient. That's just not possible, you know. And, you know, but people have these sorts of expectations that you're just going to know everything about them, which, for one thing, creeps people out. or they just don't believe it. You know, so there's two reactions that people have if you call yourself psychic. And also, it's like if you go to a doctor, you know, you would hope that your doctor would correctly diagnose you, but it's not unusual for a doctor to get things wrong. Then when it comes to psychics, you know, people expect, well, if you're calling yourself a psychic, you should never make mistakes. It just isn't reasonable. You know, there's no other field where people have that expectation. If you're a professional basketball player, does someone expect that you're always going to make every shot? You know, it would be nice if you did, sure, and people would love to see you do that, but it just is not, it's not a reasonable expectation. That said, I do, you know, consider myself to be psychic now. In that 2-week period in July of 2018, which I mentioned, you know, my spirit guide made me my primary spirit guide, Anubis, the Egyptian god of the underworld, gave me an awareness that he was my primary guide, and that he had been working with me throughout my life. You know, since I became involved with this sort of metaphysical, esoteric spirituality, like you know, 12 years ago, 12 and a half years ago, I believed in things like spirit guides, and I assumed that they were helping me. There were times when I felt aware of them trying to help and guide me along certain pathways, but I didn't know who my guides were specifically. And in the July of 2018, I keep mentioning, it was like an onslaught, a 2-week onslaught of psychic activity. Like I would, I was working 12-hour shifts at the time, 3 12-hour shifts a week, night shift. So I'd work through the night, I would come home, I'd have all this psychic activity, I would, you know, maybe try to sleep, I would go back to work, and I would even continue to have these psychic experiences at work. But, you know, I became aware of all these karmic contracts. I felt, you know, karmic contracts being released. Became aware of past life stuff, my own and other people's. Aware of who other people's spirit guides, multiple of my spirit, you know, my primary guide, Anubis, you know, gave me an awareness as well of some other evolved spiritual beings who wanted to work with me. One of those was Jesus Christ. Another was Mother Mary. And I'm not religious. I grew up in a Christian household. You know, but when I was 18, I went through a process of trying to become a better Christian. In the process, I actually realized that it was not something that I believed in. You know, I do believe in Jesus Christ, and I feel like I understand now more fully who he is. And I experienced his presence and had a couple of conversations with him, I felt, in July of that year as well, in which he kind of explained more about who he was. When Anubis first told me, you know, Jesus Christ wants you to work with him on something or be involved in some, you know, I don't know what collaborate with him, be a part of something. I was like, I don't know. Not that you know, he seems like a great guy in the Bible. You know, one of my favorite stories of Jesus is, you know, the moment actually when he got angry and turned over the money changers' tables in the temple. And I would say my second favorite is probably when he said, yes, let the children come unto me. To me, I feel like those are the two best examples of Christ's energy. And so I think being Christ-like is a wonderful thing. That said, I feel like Christianity as a religion has a lot of question marks for me. And also, you know, I would say in the year previous to all of this psychic stuff that was happening, I was having a lot of apocalyptic fears. I was trying to, I don't know why I was researching about the Antichrist and prophecies about the end times and those kinds of things. And it's not just, You know, I come from a Christian background. Obviously, the end times are predicted in the Bible, and but it isn't just in the Bible. Also, the Antichrist is mentioned in Jewish and Muslim texts as well, which makes me think, you know, the likelihood that there is an Antichrist is probably pretty strong. So when Anubis said, you know, Christ wants to work with you, I was like, hold up. Now, is this Christ, or is this the Antichrist? I was just feeling a little overwhelmed. Also, I was having so many very bizarre and intense psychic experiences. I was just a little like hesitant, you know. I was like, I don't know, Anubis, if I want to talk to Jesus. But I did. I utilized tarot to have a couple of conversations with him. Probably sounds a little weird to some of you, but what I felt he said to me, so one of the things he said to me was, the only thing that I will ever ask you to do is love. And I was like, okay, so if that's your agenda, I think I can be on board with the agenda of love. If that's all that you are asking of me in order for me to work with you, I can do that. He also made me aware, he kind of showed me the way in which he is constantly expressing and holding the world, the world and all of humanity globally, holding us all in this, you know, kind of compassion and love. He's constantly, if you could just imagine his energy, just enwrapping the world in this loving energy. That is what he's doing constantly, and he does that at the same time as he is feeling the full weight of all of the pain and suffering that is being experienced on the earth, which is a lot of pain and suffering. So he's having to overcome, you know, feeling the pain and suffering, and even through that being able to extend this compassion. Also, he's feeling the full weight of the pain of people misunderstanding him, you know, actively expressing hostility towards him, and also the pain of his name being misused for other people's less, you know, less good, I don't know, agendas. You know, there are some people who are using his name for their own personal benefit, or to achieve their own personal agendas, which are not necessarily very kind agendas. So he's feeling the pain of all of that, the pain of all human suffering, and through that he continues to just express this unconditional love and compassion and concern. I think that's the word that I'm trying to think of more so than compassion, although it is about compassion. It's more like he's very concerned with humanity and the well-being of humanity. So that's what he's experiencing all the time, which was not what I had thought about. You know, I had always thought, you know, like Jesus came to earth, you know, he was, you know, like a martyr figure, and he did carry the world's weight on his back in the form of a cross and made that sacrifice for the greater good. But I thought, you know, like, well, then he died and he went to heaven, and then he was happy and fine after that, you know. Like I guess I thought the burden that he carried was a burden he carried when he was on the earth plane, and when he was crucified, and then that afterwards, you know, he was released from all of that, that was his sacrifice. But he made me aware that it is not just a one-time sacrifice that he made. It's a continual sacrifice, a continual burden that he carries for humanity. And who knows what our experience on earth would be like if he was not continuing to carry that burden for us, you know. So those are the things that I remember him saying to me, that I will only ask you to love. And then he, you know, he wanted me to understand himself more fully. And what I also understood just generally about Christ and other very highly spiritually evolved beings like him is that, you know, they are also still on a spiritual path, an evolution, a path of spiritual evolution. So their souls are continuing to have experiences that lead them to greater growth as well. It's not like you just get to that point where you ascend and you become like a spiritual master and that's the end of the road. So that was interesting to learn. I also got to experience Mother Mary. I'm not sure exactly what she wants to do. I think maybe I am intended to be a mother, and that was, I was given some information about how that might happen as well. I'm in my car and my engine is making some really weird noises. Okay. So Mother Mary was also very, she was a really interesting energy to experience. It was a very pure mothering energy. Just it's hard even to just describe it. Like if you could imagine what the perfect feeling of being mothered is like, that was her energy, just this pure, loving, nurturing energy. That's what her energy felt like. She also has a really good sense of humor. I was talking to her, or like feeling her energy. We didn't have a conversation per se. It was more like I was just feeling the energy or the essence of who she was in a very strong way. I was actually watching a Mother Mary meditation, or listening to it. There weren't words. It wasn't a guided meditation. It was just music. So I was watching this on YouTube, and just her energy, you know, like I could viscerally feel her energy. So it wasn't just I'm hearing the sounds of this video. I actually felt her presence, which was very nice. It was very pleasant. And she has a funny sense of, she has a good sense of humor. At the end of the video, you know how people are always having these Mother Mary experiences where like they see her on a piece of toast or on a potato chip. It's like, oh, it's the image of Mary. And you know, I guess I've thought through the years, well, people are just, you know, that's a little, people are seeing what they want to see. But I think it is literally her sense of humor. Like she thinks that it is funny to do things like that, to appear like on potato chips and those kinds of things. She has like a playful energy. When the video had ended, I still kept hearing this light, faint music in the background. I'm like, oh my God, it's a Virgin Mary miracle. I'm experiencing a miracle. I'm like, what is going on here? And then I realized that I had a video running simultaneously in the background on another tab that I didn't even realize was playing. So that's what it was. So, but then when I realized, my screen did this weird flicker thing at the top, which I've never seen it do. And I just felt like it was her making a joke, you know, like she's, that's what I felt like anyways. So that's some of what I experienced in July of this past year. I'm making this recording on January 6th, 2019. Some of the other things I experienced, just very bizarre. I had beetles. So we were still in summer, and I do have some beetles in the backyard of the apartment where I live, and occasionally I would see them. I keep my patio door cracked a little bit for my cat to come in and out as she wants, and I kept having these beetles come in, and they would come in and like sit on top of one of my tarot decks that was in the floor next to my chair, and I felt like they were charging it, you know, with their energy. And again, to me, beetles speak to that ancient Egyptian energy. You know, they're a very spiritual, symbolically important imagery for ancient Egypt. And also, I would just like to say, before all of this happened, I never had felt any specific connection to ancient Egypt. I know a lot of people who believe in past lives do. I never have. I have through the years. I believe in reincarnation. But yeah, I never had any particular, you know, interest, strong interest in ancient Egypt. So I was a little bit surprised when Anubis was my primary guide. But that's what it is. And then I was like, well, this is a little bit of a cosmic joke also that he's a god of the underworld. I'm like, well, that makes sense. Because I feel like my entire life has been a walk through the underworld at times. And after this series of psychic experiences, I feel like I also was made to, you know, you hear about the dark night of the soul. Well, I experienced that. The dark night of soul, where you confront so many shadow issues, which was scary and very, you know, very difficult, but also very purging and healing. So if any of you are interested in astrology, I'm also experiencing a transit of Pluto, which is approaching a conjunction to my moon. I think it's about 2 degrees away right now. Moon in Capricorn. So if any of you are watching and if you have the moon or any other planets in late Capricorn, look out for that Pluto transit, because it's a rough one. Pluto is very healing though, but it's healing in the same way that a surgery is healing, you know. It requires the use of a scalpel, you know, so it's a painful healing. You know, so Pluto is kind of like if you went under the knife to have a tumor removed. You definitely want that tumor out, but it requires the use of a scalpel. So more pain has to be experienced in order for the tumor to be removed. Of course, you know, if you're having surgery, they're going to put you under some anesthesia. Pluto doesn't use anesthesia. There's no anesthesia with Pluto. So it's like having a tumor removed, but feeling, you know, every cut of that surgeon's knife as it happens. So I will say, just additionally, you know, after that first 2 week when I was inundated with like nearly constant psychic experiences, yeah, I mean, luckily that didn't continue, because I feel like that would be really overwhelming to be experiencing that kind of thing all the time. I mean, I don't even know how to describe some of the things I experienced. At one point, I really felt like I was seeing like some sort of astral portal close, as if someone had been there and had left. It was like this, like tall, thin, in a corner of my living room, tall, thin. You know, I was looking in one direction, and then I looked this way, and I saw, like, as if there had been a doorway of light, but then it had all compacted together into this, you know, kind of like a long strip, maybe about as wide as like a yardstick, as a wooden yardstick, like tall and thin, and then the light disappeared. So I just saw this tall, thin column of light disappear, and to me it appeared as if some sort of astral doorway had closed. So I was like, who has been here? You know, and just weird things happened. You know, my cat told me about a couple of her past lifetimes. There was a moment in which I lifted my hand up. My cat was meowing. I lifted my hand up like this. You know, and I've taken a Reiki class many years ago. And Reiki is basically, you know, channeling God's loving energy through you. Utilizes a lot the palm chakras to do that. And that's what happened. I lifted my hand, and like I could just feel this energy, this healing energy coming from my hand into her. And I could tell from her reaction that she was feeling it too. Now, I've done Reiki before many years ago. I remember doing Reiki on one of my cats, and I could tell also that he could feel it. But this was like, I wasn't even trying. I lifted my palm, and there is all of this healing energy coming out of it. I have not experienced that since. But yeah, she told me about a couple of her past lives. Now, this is going to sound even freakier than some of the other stuff, but she said she used to be a white rabbit named Strawberry, and she also used to be a unicorn. So I didn't believe in unicorns before all of this. I do now. I believe in unicorns and all other elementals as well. I think that we have, our human perception is very limited. What I have also learned, by the way, is that unicorns are mentioned 9 times in the Bible. That doesn't mean that they're, I mean, just because there are a lot of silly things mentioned in the Bible, that I wouldn't trust everything that's written, but, you know, it's just, it brings up a lot of question marks, you know. But I do believe in unicorns. I feel like my entire life has changed since July of 2018. And so at this point, you know, now that all of that has died down, if you asked me, what is it like to be a psychic? Well, for one thing, being a psychic does not mean that I necessarily am going to know everything about you. But there are moments, even before this, there have been moments when I just knew things about people. It seems like specifically, there have been a couple times when I was just made aware that someone had a drinking problem, for instance. And also sometimes when I'm doing readings over the phone, like even before someone calls in or when they first call in, I'll get a certain smell, and it seems like especially related to that person having depression. So I might smell like a strong body odor smell. There was once when I felt I kept smelling gas, basically, and you know, I feel like this person, and I told him during the reading, I'm like, I feel like maybe you have some solar plexus issues, which has to do with digestion and all that. Anyway, so I do get some strange psychic imprints, and I can get messages in all sorts of ways. I feel like I have claircognizance a lot now, which is just clear knowing. So clairvoyance is more like where you see things. Most clairvoyants see symbolic images in their head. For example, clairaudience is where you hear the message. Claircognizance is just a strong sense of knowing, which I have had throughout the years. I feel like I experience it more so now. So yeah, I don't know. If any of you have specific questions for what it's like to be a psychic, I would be glad to answer those. There's probably more to what the experience is than I can say in the 25 minutes that I've been speaking, but yeah, if you have specific questions, I would be glad to answer them in the comments. If there are enough unique questions about it, maybe I'll make another video where I address those. I feel like there's something else that I wanted to say. Yeah, the final thing that I wanted to say is just my experience of being a psychic is going to be different from someone else's. For one thing, there are many types of spiritual gifts. Right? So not everyone is going to be the same in their experience of what it's like. But this is a little bit about my journey and what my current experiences are. Yeah, so I would like to hear also about your psychic experiences. I think we all have intuitive abilities, just like we all have an inherent ability to solve math problems or, you know, to be involved in some athletic sport. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be a pro baseball player or something, you know. Maybe we know how to throw a ball, and maybe we can sometimes, you know, I don't know, I don't have much of athletic skill, but I'm just saying, you know, we all have some degree of skill in most areas, right? Some of you have a lot of latent gifts that you just don't know about because we live in a society, we live in a world that really suppresses that, which means we don't really get to work with it so much. I will say, if you're interested in increasing your psychic ability, you definitely can do that through practice. I wouldn't be where I am now as a tarot reader if I had not been, over the past 12-ish years, using tarot on a regular basis. I don't offer astrology readings now per se. I did try to back in the past. And what I've realized in terms of that, I feel like I have a lot of good astrological knowledge, which I apply a lot in understanding myself and looking at my own natal chart and looking at other people's charts and trying to understand astrological concepts more fully by applying them to what this is what I see in the chart and this is what I see in the actual person. So I try to put those two things together to sort of have a better understanding of certain concepts and things, but I don't think I'm really good necessarily at looking at someone's chart and saying, this is what you need to know, in terms of answering specific questions. Tarot is just the tool that works best for me. And it does really help me to tap into my psychic knowing. But I also have started being able to do past life readings and go into the Akashic Records, which is just, basically the library or the memory stored. It's kind of like the cloud, but for our soul, our collective soul. It contains all knowledge and all experience, every thought, every poem that's been written, every painting that's been made, every conversation that's been had. It's all in the Akashic Records. So it is a place where we can go and access past life memories as well. And I do have an ability now, since July of last year, to go into meditation. Not a deep meditation, because I need to be awake enough to be conscious that I can remember what I'm getting. But yeah, I have that ability as well now, in addition to the tarot, which has been an interesting ability to pursue further. So, all right, so that's a little bit of my backstory and a little bit about what it is like to be psychic. I guess I'm newly psychic. I'm just starting to use the term. But yeah, so let me know if you have any other questions about that. Thanks for watching. So the next portion of this is going to be the pick a card, where I'm going to ask about your psychic abilities. So look to those timestamps. See you later. Bye. Hey guys, so in this reading, we're going to be asking what your psychic and spiritual gifts are. And also we're going to ask the tarot how you can develop those gifts. We have several options here. I did this because I want this to be a nuanced reading and for this to be as specific to you as possible. So I think you can see the options pretty clearly, so I'll let you go ahead and just look at those and make your decision. The timestamps will be in the description and then top of the comments. Also, if you'd like to stick around for it, this will be time-stamped as well. I am going to give a little talk explaining what it is like from my point of view to be psychic, and I'll also give you a little bit of history about how my own psychic abilities have developed through the years. So if that's something interesting to you, stick around for it. Otherwise, of course, you can just go ahead and skip ahead. All right, I'm going to let the video roll for just a few seconds, and then we will get into the dialogue from me about what it's like to be a psychic. Okay, this is the reading for people who chose option number 1, which was Midnight Fleur. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first consult with the tarot and see if the tarot will give us any indication of what your psychic gifts are. And then I've created a deck. So I've written some words on here. It's pretty thick. Of course, this isn't going to cover every kind of psychic or spiritual gift that you could have, but it covers a lot of ground. So first we're going to look with the tarot and see what I can discern from that, and then we'll use this deck that I made here and see if that corresponds with what I'm already picking up. If so, that's just further confirmation. Okay. So what are this person's spiritual gifts? Okay, so we get the High Priestess, the Ace of Cups, and the Four of Swords. With the High Priestess, I mean, you're just plain old psychic. I feel like you probably have claircognizance and or clairsentience or empathy. So you might be very good at picking up other people's emotions. Might be very good at picking up other people's emotions and also just kind of knowing things, just having a sense of knowing, which is claircognizance. Clairsentience is pretty much the same as empathy, but it's sort of like, you know, you can walk into a room and just sense that there's something off, you know. Also, you, like I said, you're just very good at picking up other people's emotions. Also get the Four of Swords here. I think this might be something about discernment. Discernment is an ability basically to judge whether a person is good or bad. I mean, those are value judgments, but you know, like knowing if someone's good for you or bad for you, knowing if someone has good intentions or bad intentions, just like kind of getting a sense of who a person is psychically. Okay, so that's what I'm getting from tarot. Let's look at this deck that I created here and see if that's going to give us similar information. We might uncover further psychic gifts here, and or we might get some confirmation. So let's just pull 3 of these. So we get manifesting. So you're also someone who can be very good at manifesting. Clairaudience, so we got one of the clairs here. So this is clear hearing. So with the High Priestess, this could be any kind of the clairs, what I'm calling the clairs, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and so on. So just basic psychic gifts, just psychic knowing. Let's see, and clairgustance, you got 2 of the clairs. So, I mean, you might have even more of those, like I said. You know, the clairsentience or claircognizance, but clairgustance, that's an interesting psychic gift. It's clear taste, the ability to psychically taste something, which is sort of like maybe you might have the taste of wine in your mouth and just have this sense of knowing that such and such person is drinking wine right now. Or maybe you have the taste of blood in your mouth and you just know perhaps that somebody has been hit in the mouth. I don't know. It's like an ability to gain psychic knowledge through the use of your taste buds. So I have experienced this once that I can think of. I tasted, well, taste and smell are very intertwined as well. So, but yeah, tasting and smelling beer I've experienced before when I was not myself drinking beer. And knowing that that was connected to a certain person. So yeah, that's what I'm getting for you. Let's use tarot and some of these Indigo angel cards as well for some advice from Spirit about how you can further develop these gifts. So there's a lot of information out there with manifesting. So if you already feel that you're particularly good at manifesting, you know, definitely pursue that. Let's see, compassion. Yeah, so I feel like this is telling us again that you do have a very strong empathic ability. But they're also telling you that being in that sense of compassion is going to assist you in developing your spiritual gifts as well. Divine timing. So I feel like they're telling you, for one thing, that in terms of developing your gifts, there may be a sense of divine timing at work. Perhaps you are not ready for a certain gift until a certain time, or your gifts just need to develop over time in a certain way. I know the first time that I experienced telepathy was in 2009, and it was definitely overwhelming to me, for instance, and I shut it down. I asked for it to be shut down. And then I forgot that I'd ever experienced it. And some associated memories I also lost, repressed. That did not come back to me until a couple weeks ago, actually, a few weeks ago. But yeah, so divine timing. So they're saying trust that, you know, express compassion, and that's going to help out these spiritual gifts. But also, if you just trust, to some extent, that these gifts are going to unfold over time. Okay, so don't get frustrated if you're not like the most fabulous clairaudient person in the world just right away, right? I don't think I explained this also when I pulled it out. Clairaudience is clear hearing, so it's sort of like hearing a psychic insight. And if you're starting to do this as well, you might be a little bit scared that you're becoming schizophrenic. So just, you know, be calm. You know, if you're experiencing something like that and you're scared, I would say, you know, pray for guidance and support in that process. If you continue to feel like perhaps, you know, you're going crazy, then you probably should seek out a mental health professional. But there's nothing to be scared about per se. If you are clairaudient, your spirit guides, departed people who have passed on, often utilize clairaudience or clear hearing as a way to get messages to people. So you could also be someone who has mediumistic abilities. Let's see what the third card is here. Stay. I'll just pull a tarot card to see. And we get 10 of Cups. So again, I keep getting the feeling with you, they don't want you to get, they meaning your guides, you know, spirit in general, doesn't want you to get frustrated with this process. Because perhaps you're expecting it to unfold really quickly or something, and they're just saying this needs to run its course in the right way. Let's just pull another couple cards from Tarot to see if there's any more advice for you. We get the King of Pentacles, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Nine of Swords. So some of you might feel like you want things to happen more quickly. Others of you might feel like, you know, I feel really unsafe or scared in this process. I'm more used to experiencing the world in a more concrete way. And so this really stresses me out. I definitely feel like some of you are really maybe stressed out by clairaudient experiences, for example. But like I said, you are, with the King of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles, you are safe and secure. You're okay. All right. And if you continue not to feel okay, again, seek out a professional who can help see if you do have some sort of mental health issue. Okay. All right. So that was a little quick read. I'm going to go ahead and move on to reading number 2. Okay. Folks who chose reading number 2, which was Verde, the Verde perfume. We are first going to ask the tarot what your spiritual gifts are, and then I had this deck I've created in which I've written down different spiritual, psychic, metaphysical gifts, things that you might be gifted at, and we're going to use that to sort of confirm or elaborate on what information I feel that I'm getting from tarot to begin with. So number 2, what are your spiritual, psychic, metaphysical gifts? The Wheel of Fortune. Automatically I'm feeling astrology, and that's funny because when I pulled this deck up before, astrology was on the bottom of the deck. We get 2 of Cups and the Empress. With the Empress, I think you're probably good at manifesting. I'm also getting spell work, utilizing spells. Spell magic might be for some of you. With 2 of Cups, you might be very empathic. Like you pick up on other people's emotions extremely well. You're a highly sensitive person, probably. And also with the 2 of Cups, you might be someone who has a strong sense of discernment, which is an ability to know who's right for you and who's wrong for you. not just in terms of romance as it's depicted on this card, but in terms of friendships as well, just in general, like, is this a good person? Is it a bad person? It's a sense, kind of a sense of knowing what a person's character is without having a way to know it, you know what I mean? Like, you can meet someone and immediately have a sense of who they are. And yeah, again, with the Wheel of Fortune, you know, with all these zodiac symbols around here and this wheel mimicking the natal chart, I feel like you are someone who could be particularly good at understanding and implementing astrological concepts, reading charts. Okay? So let's look at this deck that I created with all of these gifts listed, and we'll see what comes up from here. Now, if we get astrology, empathy, manifesting, or spell work, then that's going to be confirmation that that's an especially strong gift for you. We get performing miracles, which is manifesting, or this can also be not just performing miracles, but someone who has an ability to experience or see miracles being performed. An experience of miracles. We get herbalist. That kind of relates to the spell work that I mentioned before. A lot of times plants are used in spell work. And prayer warrior. So these are all very different. Now that doesn't mean that what I said before is wrong. It could just be that you're someone with a lot of different spiritual gifts, and Spirit wants to let you know about that. So yeah, do you ever feel like you've experienced a miracle? Maybe you should read about the experience of miracles that other people have had to understand more what that means. Prayer warrior, I put in here because I think some people are just especially good at verbalizing their prayers, or even, you know, in their head, creating prayers that are very powerful. The words that you use in your prayer and the intention and the emotion behind it. Some people just are really, really good at praying, you know, and putting the intention of the prayer out there to the universe or the divine in a way that, you know, makes it very likely that the prayer will be answered. And you're also someone who has you're good at seeing the prayer being answered. You know, you're seeing that. Maybe you're seeing prayer work, you know, manifesting for you in a miraculous way as well. So herbalist, you could be someone who does healing with plants, or like I said, spell work. Maybe someone who just likes to spend time in nature as well, around plants. Maybe you connect to plant life just in a very spiritual way. Okay, so we're going to use the Indigo Angels Oracle deck to get some advice from Spirit about how you can pursue your psychic, metaphysical, spiritual talents. Okay, it says, you are special, authority, show appreciation. So you are very special. I'm getting that you do have a variety of psychic gifts, probably even more than the ones listed here. Now, there may be some of these gifts that are stronger than others. And of course, the more effort you put into developing a gift, the more progress you're going to see. We also get authority. So I think maybe some of you are being asked to seek out a mentor or read books, you know, someone else's words, connecting with someone else's knowledge, their authority, and also showing appreciation. I feel like show appreciation for other people who have the gifts that you are wanting to pursue. You know, look to what they're doing and how they've been able to develop their gifts, and appreciate their progress and learn from them. You know, learn from their success. Let's pull a few cards from the tarot and see what else Spirit has to say in terms of advice. Prince of Swords. The Magician, so that to me is the manifesting that we mentioned before. Let's see. So we talked about authority before. The Prince of Swords is someone who likes to learn. So I'm getting this direct message. As you learn and apply what you have learned, you will experience major transformations in your life that will move you up into a higher state of being, higher state of consciousness, higher state of awareness, an increased perception, increased perception beyond the normal limitations of human perception. So yeah, those of you who picked number 2, I feel that you have a pretty strong inherent psychic abilities. So I'm excited to see what you all have to say in the comments. Are you already aware of any of these talents? Any of this is already interesting to you? Let me know. So that is the reading for number 2. This is just a little quick read. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to reading number 3. Thanks, guys. Okay, reading number 3. We are asking, of course, what are your psychic, spiritual, metaphysical gifts, and how can you develop them? So the way I'm going to approach this reading is I'm going to first consult with the tarot and see what I can discern from it. And then I also have this deck that I've created, which I've listed different psychic and spiritual, so on, gifts. And so we'll see what the tarot says first, and then we'll use this deck that I created and see if the deck I created confirms what I've already said, or if it just gives us additional information. If it confirms what I've already guessed from the tarot, then I would say that's just a really extra nice confirmation. Okay, so I feel like you, with this 9 and 10 of Cups, you are someone who perhaps can experience bliss state or states of enlightened awareness where you feel connected to oneness, connected to the divine. Typically, people are able to experience this because they've done a lot of practice of meditation. So if you're someone who practices meditation, I feel like this is a confirmation to you that that is an excellent path for you to continue to pursue. And the Queen of Wands, she is a master manifester. So I feel like you are probably someone who's very good at manifesting opportunities for yourself. So those are the things that I'm getting as well. You might have some empathic abilities as well with all these Cups cards. So an ability to know what someone's emotions are without having some rational way of knowing. So just being able to pick it up, sometimes even feeling other people's emotions. A lot of time, empaths can also feel other people's physical pain. Whoops. Oh, you're getting a lot coming. So we have esoteric knowledge, divination in general, which I also relate a lot to the Queen of Wands, really. Crystal healing, and remote viewing. Okay. So interesting. So if you're someone who's very interested in working with crystals, I feel like this is a confirmation that you're on the right path and you should continue to do that. Esoteric knowledge could be anything. I mean, it could be you like to study Gnosticism or alchemy or prophecy. It could be a lot of different things, but the esoteric is just secret wisdom. Wisdom, magical knowledge that the average person or the vast majority of people just have no awareness of. I think tarot is a bit esoteric, or astrology and tarot, or sort of a beginner's level journey into the esoteric as well. But yeah, so divination in general. There are many types of divination. So tarot is a form of divination. Astrology can be used for fortune telling or divination. It's just utilizing a tool of some kind in order to gain a psychic awareness. So it can be using a crystal ball, scrying, bibliomancy, which is where you ask a question and open a book and point to a passage and read it out as the answer to whatever question you asked. palm reading, anything like that. So there are lots of forms of divination. If you're called to one or more of them, working with pendulums as well. Now, remote viewing, that's an interesting. I met a guy once who supposedly could remote view, and he had been one of the few psychics who had been paid by some world government to do this. And I think that's probably how it's most utilized, actually, is you know, the militaries who want to spy on other countries. So they can be utilized for other things as well, but this is just an ability to see a remote location. So so I'm sitting here, and let's say I have a target. Let's say someone gives me I don't know, a certain address or some coordinates, and they ask me to see what I can see. So someone who can do remote viewing would be able to use that target location and just see and envision what is there at that location, what buildings are there, what does the landscape look like, what kind of people are there, what kind of activities are taking place there, and they see it as it's happening, more or less. Yeah, so you may have quite a few things that may interest you that you might want to pursue. Let's see what else Spirit has to say about how to develop your gifts. It says you already know. So there's some sort of gift you already know that you have, and you already know that you're supposed to pursue. So yeah, follow that gut instinct. I mean, trusting your instincts is part of developing your psychic intuition. It's just trusting it, not being fearful that you're wrong. Now, in the process of learning to trust your intuition, you also want to look to have things confirmed. So if you have an intuition of something, you also want to see it confirmed, because that also is going to help you develop your psychic ability, so that you know when you're right and when you're wrong, and then you can start to get a better feel of it. Also, I'll say, if it feels like a fear, that doesn't mean that you aren't actually intuiting something, but so long as you're in the feeling of fear, I wouldn't trust the intuition until you can get into a calmer mental state, because fear and intuition are not the same thing. And sometimes we think we're having an intuition when really we're just afraid that something is going to happen a certain way. So being able to distinguish between fear and intuition is very important, which again is why I say if you feel very fearful, then, you know, just wait a while before you start to trust that intuition. Okay, so you already know, explore. So I feel like they're wanting you to kind of dabble in multiple areas. So for example, dabble in remote viewing, perhaps, and it may or may not turn out to be something that you really fully develop, but that's okay. We learn these sorts of things over multiple lifetimes. So let's say you start dabbling with remote viewing or crystal healing in this lifetime, and maybe you don't get too far with it, or you get bored with it, and you're like, I really would rather, you know, explore meditation and transcendent states of awareness rather than doing something like remote viewing. That's fine. But you still have dabbled in it, which does still develop you in that area, which is something that you will carry on into future lifetimes. So you already know, explore. And what else do they have to say? Compassion. So we've got a lot of cups here, which are very, it's very emotional, compassionate energy. So again, I feel like you might be very empathic. I think I said that in the beginning with that 9 and 10 of cups. But regardless, keeping your heart open is going to be very beneficial to you in developing your gifts. Let's see if there's any further information for the tarot, any more advice about developing these gifts. We have the 7 of Pentacles, the High Priestess, and the Prince of Pentacles. So I feel like their advice is you are a very strong psychic. With the High Priestess card, you have strong inherent psychic abilities that, again, you do need to develop. And I feel like with this, you already know, they're like, why are you even watching this? You already know that you're highly psychic, you know, and you already know what your gifts are to some extent. But they're also saying, yes, you're psychic, but make sure you keep yourself grounded, because we have these pentacle cards on either side. They're also telling you, you know, if you don't do so well with something, don't get discouraged. You know, stick with it. With the Prince of Pentacles, they're saying stick with it and also keep yourself grounded. Especially if you're working with your transpersonal chakras, which are the system of chakras which begin above your crown chakra. A lot of times when we hear about chakras, we think that we have just those 7, you know, the root chakra, sacral, solar plexus, heart chakra, throat, third eye, and crown chakra. But we also have additional chakras below us in our hands and feet and going into the earth. And we have transpersonal chakras which extend above the crown chakra, high above the crown chakra. There are a series of them. And those transpersonal chakras, if we open them and are able to work with them, can lead us to abilities like being able to connect with and know who spirit guides are, both ours and other people's, being able to connect with past lives, being able to connect with God, deities even, to some extent. And so they're saying, I feel like they're saying you have active transpersonal chakras. You might want to continue to develop them. A good way to do that is through meditation, where you visualize. We'll first do a grounding meditation where you fully ground yourself. Again, because grounding is very important when you're working with the transpersonal chakras. But once you're grounded, just imagine, you know, when you're breathing in and breathing out. So breathe in light through your transpersonal chakras down into the center of the earth. So breathe it in and then breathe out. So just visualize that energy moving between the core of the earth and high, high, high up into outer space through your transpersonal chakras. That's what I have done. And I do believe that my transpersonal chakras are open and active. Doesn't mean that I can't still develop that more fully, which I hope to do, but it's just a tip for you. So ground yourself, connect to those transpersonal chakras. I think that they want you to do that. You might also, with esoteric knowledge, you just might also want to research some of this stuff. So do some research on transpersonal chakras. I feel like is something that would be especially good for you all who chose number 3. Okay, so this was just a quick read. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to reading number 4. Let me know how you felt about that in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, look at my past videos. Something that I've noticed if I'm scrolling through pick a card readings, if I feel visually drawn to a specific reading, then I tend to have the experience that that reading has an even stronger message for me. So I would scroll through the past readings and see if you have that experience. If so, you know, watch that video and see what the message is for you. All right, thanks guys. Have a good day. Okay, this is the reading for those of you who chose number 4, which was Indigo, the Indigo perfume bottle. All right, and we're going to ask, what are your psychic, spiritual, and or metaphysical gifts? And I've created this deck here, so a deck full of gifts, and we're going to be using that in a moment. But first, what I want to do is use the tarot to see what I can discern just from the tarot, and then I'm going to use this deck that I created and see if we get any confirmations. So everything that comes forward from the tarot and from this deck, you know, can potentially be pertinent for you. Trust your own sense of knowing as well. But if we get a confirmation, like if I say, for example, clairaudience when I do the tarot portion, and then we get the clairaudience card here, then I'm thinking that's an especially strong ability that you have, for example. So let's just see what we've got here. We get the Ace of Pentacles, the Three of Cups, and the Eight of Pentacles. Well, first, I think that you're someone who's very grounded. You might be very good at working specifically with your root chakra. I don't have a card for that, but I'm just saying. You might be someone who's interested in working with plants, perhaps flower essences specifically. Scrying. Scrying is when you have an ability to look at a crystal ball or a pool of water or something else, and look into the clouds or whatever, and you get psychic information that way. With the Three of Cups, you might be someone who's an empath. A lot of people are empathic. Also someone who's pretty compassionate. I'm also getting a sense perhaps of strong discernment, which is just an ability to judge a person's character without even knowing them. So meeting someone and just having a sense of who they are. Oh, I hope I didn't kick my camera. I'm sorry if I did. Okay. All right. Okay. And the Two of Swords just plopped into the floor. So I feel especially strong here that discernment might be something that you all are experiencing. All right, so let's see what these cards say. Working with elementals. We have a lot of earth energy, so earth elementals. That makes sense to me. Okay, astral projection, interesting, and experiencing bliss states, a state of transcendence, or an experience of oneness. Most of the times people who are able to experience this, not always, but generally these are people who have really been working actively with meditation. So you might also just be someone who's very good at meditating. And then astral projecting your astral body to another location, an out-of-body experience. So that's interesting. That would be a pretty high-level psychic spiritual gift, I would think. So yeah, I'm interested to know if any of you actually have experienced astral projection. I think, and if you watch the part where I talk about my own psychic experiences, I feel like this past July that I haven't astral projected myself, but I think I saw someone astral projecting out of my living room. I felt like I saw an astral doorway close. So if that seems of interest to you, watch that portion of the video where I talk about what it's like to be psychic. But yeah, working with elementals, so that's like mermaids, dragons, unicorns. We have one right here. Fairies, things like that. So, some people can actually see these elemental beings. They don't exist in our normal state of perception. They exist in a kind of a different, like a higher dimension, sort of. So if you do have that ability, that's very cool. You seem to be someone who is actually pretty highly psychic, and also very spiritually progressed. You can be psychic and still not be someone who has a good spiritual evolution. But my sense is that you have a good sense of both here, the spirituality and also the psychic ability. So let's ask the Indigo Angels Oracle deck, what can the viewer do to enhance or progress their natural abilities? Nature, so working with elementals, these are beings that typically live in nature. They're very connected to nature energies. And then we have all this Pentacles energy again, which I associate with Earth, Mother Nature. So yeah, they want you to spend time in nature, and that might help you to connect with these elementals, for instance. So spend time in nature. Let's see what else we get. Self-care. Yeah, also with the Eight of Pentacles, that's very much a self-care oriented card. So they want you to take care of yourself. What I'm getting from this is that some of you could easily get exhausted or just spiritually drained, or psychically drained rather. You might also want to use some sort of psychic protection. Lately I've been using frankincense essential oil in a carrier oil, and applying that like to my throat chakra, my crown chakra, my hands, and using that to psychically protect myself. Grounding techniques also. But yeah, they want you to take care of yourself because I feel like you are a very sensitive person, psychically and otherwise. Yeah, so spend time in nature, do some good self-care, maybe take some long hot baths, whatever makes you feel good. And then divine timing we get. So some of you might be feeling a bit impatient to develop your psychic gifts, and they are saying that you might have to wait for the right timing before you are able to experience a certain gift being fully developed. Okay? So they're just saying to trust. You know, this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. All right, and let's just see if the tarot has any further guidance for you about developing your gifts. Five of Cups. So yeah, I feel like you might be someone who gets down sometimes, gets a little gloomy and depressed. So I feel like this is just relating back to the self-care and spending time in nature to kind of help you deal with your sadness. Your psychic awareness is going to be a lot stronger if you can learn how to handle your emotions better also. And the Queen of Cups. So yeah, there's a lot of emotionality. Again, I just get that you are very psychically sensitive, so you might pick up other people's energies pretty easily. So just take care of yourself emotionally and protect yourself psychically. All right, those of you who chose number 4, I hope you liked that. Let me know if the comments, if this made sense to you at all. Hopefully it made a lot of sense. And subscribe if you haven't already. Also check out my past readings. Scroll through there and see if any of them seem to jump out at you. I feel like when I see videos that jump out at me, those tend to be much more pertinent to me than otherwise. So, all right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you later. And move on to the next. Okay, this is the reading. Whoops, let me throw these cards away. This is the reading for people who chose number 5, which was the Black Tulip perfume. So if you chose number 5, Black Tulip, this is your reading. And so just to let you know how I'm going to do this, first I have this deck here that I've created with a list of different psychic and metaphysical spiritual abilities or skills. And we're going to use that in a moment. But first, what I would like to do is use the tarot to see what the tarot says that your gifts are. And then we'll use these cards. So we might get different information coming up for both. Which would just, you know, it just expand. You might have a lot of gifts, and so Spirit needs to bring that knowledge to us in multiple ways. But also, if we get something on this deck confirming what I'm picking up with the tarot, then I would say that that is an especially strong gift for you. All right, so let's just see. We've got 6 of Wands, Justice, and 5 of Pentacles. So with 6 of Wands, I feel like you're someone who's good at manifesting success, specifically. Success, fame, adoration, you know, getting people to follow your lead, sort of. With the Justice, you might be someone who's particularly good at clearing karma, or you maybe have some sort of psychic awareness of people's karmic contracts, which would be an interesting psychic ability to have. Also, discernment. I think you might have strong powers of discernment, and that's just an ability to have a sense of who someone is, what their character is, without really knowing that much about them. Some people can actually look at someone's photograph and pick up psychically a sense of who that person is and what they're like as well. Okay, and then 5 of Pentacles. Let me get a clarifier here. 5 of Pentacles and 7 of Cups. Esoteric knowledge is coming up for me. With the 7 of Cups, you might also be empathic, but I would say if you are empathic, you might get a little bit bogged down by it. So being empathic just means you have a strong sense of what someone else's emotions are. Again, with perhaps not having some logical way of knowing that. Empaths also sometimes will feel other people's emotions, and even sometimes confuse other people's emotions as their own, or just be confused about the emotions they're picking up on. So I'm an empath, and I pick up on people's emotions, for example, and I get confused by it all the time. So it's nothing to feel bad about, but with the 7 of Cups, you might be an empath who tends to have that problem as well. Just with the 5 of Pentacles, I'm getting also, and this is not on the deck that I created, but you might be someone who in multiple lifetimes has, you know, had some sort of vow or poverty, or if you've been a martyr in some way. A martyr, perhaps, yeah, maybe a monk or something in a past lifetime. Monk or a nun, something like that. Okay, so anyway, so let's see what these cards say. Shape-shifting. That's interesting. So shape-shifting, of course, is the ability to shift into the shape of another being, generally into the shape into an animal. Let's see, prayer warrior. That's a good one. And herbalist. Okay, so I didn't say any of these before, so you might have a wide array of things that are possibilities here. So kind of trust your instincts about which of these seem more accurate for you and less accurate. So for herbalist, you know, you might be someone who is very connected to nature in a spiritual way. Also maybe someone who uses plants for healing. So you can do that in many ways. Use the actual plant. You could be someone who uses the essential oils of plants, or flower essences, that kind of thing. Maybe someone who uses plants for spell work even. So prayer warrior I included because some people are just really good at praying and sort of giving it up to God and trusting God, but also being able to ask for their prayers to be answered in a way that is effective. I have found the most effective thing to do when you're praying for something is to say, I'm praying for this, or better, you know. So like if you think you're supposed to be with a certain romantic partner, like, I pray that this unfolds, you know, joyfully for the two of us. Or if there's something better that the universe has to offer one or both of us, then I pray for that. I pray for the highest good. I pray for this situation to unfold for the highest good. Yeah, but you're someone who just kind of has a good understanding of how to approach prayer, and you come to it with the, you know, you ask that also when you pray, you have to bring a certain energy to it, sort of like doing spell work. I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable of spell work, but I think there are similarities in a way. Okay, because I think we got manifesting before for you all. You might be someone who uses prayer as a method of manifesting also. So those are the gifts that I'm getting for you, possible gifts. I also want to use this Indigo Angels Oracle deck to see what Spirit has to say to you about how to develop your gifts. We get Stay, and I see 2 angels on here. You might want to work with angels. Of course, all of these cards have angels, but I'm particularly drawn to these because there are 2 of them working together, and also their wings are green, which is the heart chakra color. Let me pull a clarifier here. Stay, and then six of Swords. I feel like they want you to heal some interpersonal situations that require healing. That is going to help you develop your gifts. So work on healing any kind of issues that you have with other people. Also pray and ask for angelic support in that. Then we get, you already know. So for one thing, this can also indicate you have a sense of claircognizance, which is a sense of clear knowing. But also, they're saying you didn't even need this reading, you silly goose. You already know what your gifts are. And you already know how to develop them. So why are you even watching this? And then we get look through the situation. Let's clarify. 4 of Wands. Yeah, I feel like they're saying that there's some situation in your life, probably involving some other person, in which you're just not seeing how this is going to unfold. They're asking you to trust. I think also to reach out in prayer. But like the card says, look through the situation. Friendship. Yeah, with this Stay, with the 2 angels and friendship, there's some person in your life. It feels very loving in both of these pictures. This is someone who you love very much. Could be a friend, or could be a love interest or a lover, or a family member, but it seems like there's a feeling of friendship. No matter what the relationship is, there is a basis of friendship. And there's healing here that needs to take place with this. I feel there's a strong sense of love here, but there's still something that needs to be healed as well. And they say, ask for a sign. So yeah, you really need to type into, I think some of you also need to work with angels. That's what I'm getting, and I haven't, this is reading 5, and I haven't even said that to anyone yet. But yeah, and you know, I use the Indigo Angels deck for everyone, but I just get a strong sense here. You're asked to be doing prayer work and really calling on your guides to help give you those signs that you need for how to heal this situation and for how to heal or develop your gifts. Yeah, so that's a very interesting reading. I hope you all got something good out of it. Let me know. Let me know how that resonated for you, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Also check out my past readings. I recommend sort of scrolling through and seeing if any of the readings just sort of jump out at you. Because my experience is when I scroll through pick a card readings that other readers do, I feel like when I just look at the reading, the thumbnail, and I feel like this draw and pull to it, that's how I know that that's going to be a message that particularly resonates with me. So you might want to try that. Of course, I'm also getting you, trying to get you to view more of my videos. Shameless, I know. But anyway, I hope you all have a great day. I'm going to go ahead now and move on to number 6. Thanks, guys. All right, so this is the reading for the people who chose number 6, which was the White Sandalwood perfume bottle. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of info about how I'm going to approach this reading. Just going to check the time there. So I have this card deck that I created. It's got a lot of different spiritual, psychic, metaphysical gifts here. And we're going to use that and draw from that in a moment. But first I want to use the tarot to see what I can discern from it about what your psychic gifts are. Okay? So we're going to use tarot first, and then we're going to use this to sort of elaborate, see if there's any further confirmation that what I picked up from the tarot was accurate. We get the 9 of Cups, the Prince of Pentacles, and the High Priestess. Nice. So you definitely have some inherent psychic abilities with the High Priestess. It's funny because she's been wanting to come out. I think she's come out in 3 readings. Yeah, so this could be any of the, what I call the clairs, which are like clairvoyance, clairaudience, any of the other ones, claircognizance. Could be any of those. Empathy, I also feel like esoteric wisdom, being able to pursue esoteric studies with her. Maybe seeing into past lives, working with spirit guides. Those are some of the things I'm picking up with her. Let's get a clarifier for Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups with King of Cups reversed. You might be someone who has an ability to work towards experiencing oneness, or the state of bliss or transcendence, where you feel at one, this sort of golden. I personally have never experienced this. I feel like it sounds wonderful, you know, but maybe I've experienced a sense of oneness, maybe in a less intense kind of way. And I do get with the King of Cups that might be what it is for you too right now, that perhaps at the moment you can get this sense of oneness and this sense of, wow, we're all connected, and isn't that very beautiful and uplifting? So this sense of joy at our sense of connection to other people. But perhaps it's something that if you developed it further, you could actually like experience that, like, whoa, like that overwhelming, you know, emanating bliss moment. And generally, it seems to me, I'm not very good at meditating. I do a lot of guided meditations and listening to meditation music and that kind of thing. And I find that helpful. But yeah, I mean, this experiencing a bliss state is generally, as far as I am aware, something that is, that you can, that if you really work with meditation, that's one of the best ways to be able to achieve this. So with the Prince of Pentacles, I feel like you might be someone who's very grounded. You might be able to work with the lower chakras especially well, the root chakra, sacral, and solar plexus chakra, and the heart chakra. So you have a lot of green in this picture. So maybe you're really rooted and grounded, connected to earth energies. You might be someone who wants to work with spirit animals or omens, I'm getting. Also maybe someone who likes to work with plants in some kind of healing way, or just be in nature. So I've put a lot of possibilities out there. But let's use this as well to see if it confirms any of what I picked up. Esoteric knowledge, I did say that with the High Priestess. Herbalist, I said working with plants. So we are getting a lot of confirmations. Clairsentience, I said any of the clairs. Dang. Let's see. Is there anything else wanting to come out? What about for these Cups cards over here? Any confirmations here? Perform miracles. So yeah, I mean, to me it would almost be a miracle to be able to experience a bliss state. So this could also be kind of a confirmation from that. Let me pull another card. Four of Pentacles reversed. Like, the Pentacles are very grounded. They're grounded in concrete reality, right? But this was reversed. With Perform Miracles, I feel like you are able to step outside the bounds of concrete thinking. So you can see outside the box. You know, you're not limiting your awareness. You're keeping your awareness of potential realities such as miracles. You're open to this sort of thing. So that's very beautiful. I feel like you're open to the idea that a person could experience transcendence. You're not someone who is just so based in earth reality that you're always just worried about money and getting ahead in life and that kind of thing. You're someone who is very spiritually aware, I feel. Alright, so that was a really cool reading for you guys. I am also going to get some advice for you from the Indigo Angels Oracle deck about how you can develop your gifts. Okay. So the angels want to work with you. Perhaps specifically Archangel Michael is coming through. Michael is good at a lot of things. He, you can call on any of the angels when you need them. But Archangel Michael is particularly good at cutting cords. So he has this fiery sword here. He cuts cords. So if someone is psychically draining your energy as well, which can happen when you're very psychically open if you don't protect yourself. So call on the angels to help you psychically protect yourself as well. Also believe in yourself. You're very gifted. You know, you have very strong spiritual and psychic metaphysical gifts. So they're saying believe in that. Stop doubting it so much. Really believe. And then we have a sense of acceptance. You know, so some of you might need to practice mindfulness. There's a concept in dialectical behavior therapy called radical acceptance. And that just means that whether you like it or not, you're going to experience more peace within yourself if you can accept reality for what it is in you. And you are someone who's able to move beyond the reality that most people experience, which is wonderful. But I think with acceptance, it's more about in terms of your emotional life. You know, if you're someone who tends to get sort of depressed or overly emotionally reactive or something like that, they're saying, you know, what are the facts? You know, for example, you know, let's say you hear a news story about, you know, someone getting shot, mugged and shot, and you're like, oh, that's horrible. Radical acceptance would be accepting the fact that a horrible, tragic event like this happened. You know, you can accept the fact that it does make you sad, but the more you struggle against that reality and try to think things like, well, this should never have happened. There's no reason why this horrible thing should have happened. Well, it did happen, though. So I guess maybe there was a reason. You know, there were events that led up to that situation happening. Obviously, you don't like that it happened, but radical acceptance is saying, even though I don't like it, I can accept the reality that this did happen. I can accept the reality that this is the situation. And also, in terms of problem solving, you know, unless you accept the reality of it, like, let's say you really want to buy a new car, but you don't have enough money for it. Well, how are you going to get to the point of problem solving that issue unless you fully accept the reality that you don't have enough money? Accepting the reality then allows you to start problem solving from the basis of reality. Well, I don't have the money now. What can I do about that? So let me pull another card because I feel like there's probably more of a spiritual message with that as well. Two of Swords. I feel like you're supposed to try more to see things from other people's perspective as well. And this is a very important message for all of us. I feel sometimes when I'm doing personal readings for people, every now and then I get someone whose reaction to the reading indicates to me, and this is me too, this is everybody, but their reaction indicates to me that they are not capable of seeing things from anyone else's perspective but theirs, which is something that will lead us to things like blame and resentment, because we can only see what the other person did wrong. You know, I feel like you're being asked to have better perception of, you know, just being able to put yourself in other people's shoes and understanding, okay, well, maybe I don't agree with your perception, but I can at least see how you might have come to that perception, and I can accept the reality that you see things differently than I do. So for whatever reason, practicing that sort of acceptance of other people's perceptions being different, etc., people disagreeing with you, somehow or other, Spirit is saying that that is going to help you develop your gifts. It's also just probably going to bring you a greater sense of inner peace. And I do feel like having that sense of inner peace is very helpful in developing psychic gifts because it keeps your energies just very much calmer. All right. So those of you who chose number 6, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments. Check out my previous readings if you haven't already. And if you're not a subscriber, you should be. All right, so I hope you all have a good day. I'm going to go ahead and move on to reading number 7. Okay, this is for everyone who chose reading number 7. We're going to see what your psychic, spiritual, and or metaphysical gifts are. So I'm going to look at this in 2 different ways. I'm going to use this deck that I created, which has different gifts listed. But before I do that, I want to use the tarot and see what the tarot says, see what I can pick up from the tarot about what your gifts are. And then we'll use the other deck that I created as sort of a confirmation and elaboration on what other gifts you might have. Now, if you get something coming up in this deck that confirms something that I already picked up from the tarot, my thinking is that's going to be an especially strong gift for you all. Okay, so we get 7 of Swords, automatically esoteric wisdom, 2 of Cups, discernment. Discernment is the ability to know who a person is, to have a good sense of a person's character without having a way to know that in a logical way. It's just kind of having that gut sense of who someone is. We also get the 5 of Swords. Numerology, for some reason, popped into my head. I don't know why. So you might be someone who's interested in numerology. I'm getting the Hanged Man as confirmation. Meditation, experiencing bliss states, heightened states of awareness, an experience of oneness. Also, I feel like a sense of compassion with you, self-sacrifice. Some of these are not even on the card. I'm just on these. Some of these are not even on this other deck, but just things I'm picking up on. Let's see with the 2 of Cups. We get death. I think, and this is definitely not on the cards, but you might be someone who actually can work with shadow energies, healing the shadow self, or having an awareness of the shadow, doing shadow work, you know what I'm saying. Mediumship. Some of you might have mediumistic abilities. And then 7 of Cups. So empathy, being an empath, but maybe you're someone, I got this before in another reading, but someone who, you pick up on other people's emotions and their energy very well, but it might confuse you a little bit. You might need to develop that further so you'll be less confused or disoriented by other people's emotions. Okay, so that's what I'm getting. Esoteric wisdom, experience of bliss states, numerology, being an empath, and being a medium. Those are some of the things that I said. Discernment, I believe I said. Let's see what comes through in the cards. Scrying. So scrying is like using a crystal ball, looking into a bowl of water, looking up in the clouds, but just gazing upon something and, you know, getting visuals from that give you information. So seeing things in the crystal ball, for example. Scrying. That's interesting. So that's an easy one to kind of practice. You know, you don't need a lot of tools for that. Just get a bowl of water or go sit next to a pond and, you know, look into it and see if you're getting anything. Go look at the clouds if it's a nice cloudy day. I'm also getting spell work. So some of you might be particularly good at conducting spells, magical spells. Prophecy I get, to me this, and mediumship. So I feel like mediumship for you all is definitely one that you need to develop. So the ability to connect with ghosts, departed loved ones, just with the spirit world. And then prophecy, dreams, visions of the future, With the Hanged Man, I can definitely see that being a gift that you could develop. If you do, I would say pay attention to your dreams. Okay, and we got esoteric knowledge as well. A lot of people who have prophetic abilities, I feel like they can benefit as well from studying esoteric knowledge. Secret wisdom. Yeah, so this is interesting. Let me know if any of this really resonates for you. I'm also going to ask the Indigo Angels deck here if there's some advice. Let's see if there's advice to help you develop your gifts. Release and relax. That's the first card this time this card has come up in this reading. Yeah, to me it relates to the Hangman here. Release and relax. They're kind of just saying let go. I feel a sense of a kind of tightness or anxiety for you guys when I get this. And they're just saying you might want to work on doing some deep breathing exercises. Could be very beneficial to you. Maybe even massage if you like that. I'm also getting a very starry background. Let me pull a clarifying card. 7 of Pentacles. Yeah, some of you are just really stressed out. All of the 7 cards relate to the spiritual life. You've been doing a lot of inner seeking, I feel like. And maybe sometimes you just get really tense. You have these maybe high expectations for yourself. So they're saying lower your expectations. You have these gifts. Don't stress yourself out about developing them. Feeling stressed out or nervous is not going to be conducive to developing your abilities. Also getting show appreciation with the Queen of Pentacles. I'm feeling like you also might sometimes get stressed out about finances, and they want you to be expressing gratitude, I feel like, with this. Also, some of you, I think you need to be working with, I guess this is a tiger. I think they want you to work with the tiger spirit animal. So you might want to Google tiger spirit animal and see what that message is. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, show gratitude for all that you do have. They're saying that you have a lot more financially than you are recognizing right now. They want you to get into a state of gratitude for all of your gifts, no matter where you are on the road to developing them, but also for the financial security that you do have. You have more than you think you do, so they want you to really think about that. And then, again, believe in yourself. You know, there was a sense before that maybe you don't. You have a lot of self-doubt about your abilities. They want you to really trust. An authority, I feel drawn to this starry imagery. She's looking out this window at these stars. They also want you to connect with God or your guides or whatever, your higher self, but some sense of higher spiritual authority they want you to connect with. And that's going to, could also be reading books, again, back to the esoteric knowledge, books that are written by authorities who have a lot of who are spiritually evolved or who have evolved their psychic gifts and that kind of thing. Or just reading books on certain esoteric topics. I'm also getting. So that's their advice for you. Let me know how that resonated. Make sure to check out my past readings. Subscribe if you haven't already. I always love to hear your comments about how the reading resonated for you. So let me know. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.